few, the chosen. These are the chosen right here.
That's it.
Y'all are the chosen. I love it. All right. So I will skip all of the part about knowing who I am and all of that fun jazz. You guys already know that, except for you may not know everything. But basically, John Antonucci, I run a training and develop company called SML Consultative. SML stands for Servant-Minded Leadership. Primarily what we do is provide training and resources for what we call frontline leaders. So that would be leaders that are actively managing or leading a team. For the purposes of sessions like this, as well as others that we do similar to this, where we speak to an entire team, the goal is just to upskill and to provide something relevant and impactful to your day-to-day work. Today we're talking about where has the day gone and the difference between productivity and busyness. I've heard from a lot of different people. Not only is this a favorite of a lot of people, but it has, I've been told by multiple people that it has a lot of relevance to everyday life. Like even, outside of work, there's still going to be like a lot of relevance to your personal life. And that's kind of cool to me, because I'm a pretty big believer that this stuff should be transferable. This isn't just for when you're here. We'll make it relevant to here, but it should be bigger than that. Our big idea today is that productivity is the art of mission-focused impact. In your booklet, you'll find that on page 4. Where we also have a meditate on this, which is our quote of the day. But this right here is kind of is an overarching theme, and I hope that you don't check out on me right now. But if you do, and you walked out with that, I think you would actually be ahead of a lot of people in the world. Because a lot of people in the world have never grasped just this. If you just chewed on this, if you spent the next month just chewing on, man, productivity, part of mission-focused impact, what the flip does that mean? You'd probably be ahead of people. A quote that we really like, it's by Christina Marfice in her book Superhuman. Can I ask one of you guys to read our quote, either from page 4 or on the screen? Luke, you got it?
Being productive is less about always having something to do and more about making sure that what you're doing is propelling you towards a goal.
Awesome. What do we think about that? How does that resonate with us?
Definitely resonates.
It resonates.
Yeah, it's definitely something I feel like we all battle with every day in terms of just the sheer volume of what we have going on. Trying to pick priorities, kind of like the hardest part too.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm sure, what this is talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, we used to have this this worksheet that Elon Musk printed out. Remember, Kenny? Mm-hmm. And I think it was about like structuring your day and the things you had to do. I definitely felt more like I was propelling towards a goal when I used that worksheet.
It can be really tough.
Right? You found that sheet, I think. Or like one-day sheet. As I told you, like you list like your current
time blocking.
Time blocking.
The time blocking sheet.
Time blocking is great.
Yeah.
Time blocking is good. Time blocking can still end up having something to do. Every time is blocked. How do you know if you're propelling yourself toward a goal? Maybe a better question is, how often do you get to the end of your day? You've been occupied the whole day. Maybe you've used a time blocking, maybe you've used a scheduler, maybe you're using something like Motion AI or Reclaim or something like that. And so it's making sure that every minute is accounted for, but when you get to the end of the day and you put your head on the pillow, you don't actually feel like you moved a needle. You don't feel closer to any goal than you did at the morning. You feel like you filled the time, you feel weary, but you don't necessarily feel like you're closer to that end zone, if you will, or closer. Today, okay. Do you mind sharing why?
Sure. I had to go get vaccines.
Okay.
And for some reason it took me 2 hours.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's like a time suck.
Yeah.
And then you would just have all these fires just arise so like I had my to-do list, but obviously I haven't barely scratched the surface of it.
Yeah.
And then me and Aaron handed her an oxygen tank and said, come fight our fire.
Yeah. and it can be really, really challenging, especially when that's like fighting fires is something we're going to talk about quite a bit today, because that is usually what draws us away from productivity, is fighting fires. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But knowing what your goal is half of the battle.
Which I think is why that sheet made, like, back to your reference point of the sheet, I think it had like I can't remember exactly how it was laid out, but it had like a time blocking side, and then it had like your top priorities for the day.
Yes.
And I was like trying to like basically make you write out your top priorities for the week and then for the day, and then you more or less were able to keep filling out day by day as you did not finish those things. I personally felt like the sheet made me just more disappointed in myself rather than feeling more productive, because I felt like I kept getting to the end and I would never do any of the shit that I was supposed to do.
One of the things,
I did a ton of stuff today, but I didn't really.
Yeah.
I would say for me, 3 out of 5 days of the week, I feel like that quote is my life. Like, I get to the end of the day, I put my head down in bed, and I'm like, did nothing else supposed to do today. I did a bunch of stuff today, but I didn't do anything else supposed to do today. And tomorrow, for some reason, like 1 or 2 days a week, you're like, God, I had tried to do all this shit I was supposed to do in 5 days, and these 2 days.
Yes.
The other 3 days are just lost.
Yeah, it's not in this session. I have a different session on on time management. But in the time management section, one of the things that I talk about, doing a time budget, which is kind of a reverse of time blocking, where you figure out, okay, how much time do I have, and then how can I allocate that time? But one of the things that I see a lot of people do that gets them off this path, and we'll talk about it over here when we do the quadrants, is we don't plan for the things that we think don't matter but still take time. So a funny question I asked, but it's a very serious question: how many of you schedule your bathroom time?
Like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory.
Well, Sheldon has a time he has to go to the bathroom, but even just time blocking. Like every day in my calendar, a half hour is allocated to going to the bathroom. Why? Because it's going to take that long. Like by the time you go 3, 4, 5 times a day, by the time number 1 a couple of times, number 2 once or twice, like that's going to take time. But if that's nowhere in your calendar, that's got to come from somewhere. And so it seems silly. It seems like, oh, come on, John, you're scheduling your bathroom. I'm not saying you have to be like, I go to the bathroom at 12:07 like Sheldon does, but I am saying that if you don't have that anywhere in your calendar, right? Sometimes you have a half hour for lunch. Okay, let's take it nice. Let's go to dinner. Let's take it out of lunch because that's sometimes more framed. Let's say you dinner and you think, yeah, okay, I'll get a half hour to eat. Great. How long does it take you to prepare the dinner? Is that anywhere in your schedule? Because really what you probably need in order to produce and then consume a decently nutritious meal, especially if you have children, which I believe most of you have.
That's the only one with a kid.
Oh, well, she's pregnant. But you don't have kids yet? Goodness, thank you. We don't have any little Luke yet running around. That would be too much Luke in this world. If you have to, I mean, like now you're talking a good 2 hours just to make the dinner, get it ready, get them fed, try to stuff something in your own face, right? And how often do we think, oh, dinner, half hour? Because that's what we've been conditioned, because lunch is a half hour. So same thing can be true with breakfast. How many of us don't put any time in our calendar for getting dressed? Showering, getting dressed. Like now, again, that's not this session, but it can really have a big impact on this. I've got stuff to do. I was busy. But it's because we had a bunch of little 5 to 10 minute tasks. And what it really is, and that's why I talk about in the time management session a time budget, it's the equivalent of not paying attention to your incidental purchases. And how fast does the candy bar here and the Slurpee there and the whatever there add up at the end of the month, and all of a sudden you're like, where the frick did $200 go? Well, you stop by QT every day. Pretty easy, it's right there, but you weren't thinking about it because it was just the candy bar. It was just going to the bathroom. It was just,
I feel like for us, emails would be like the number one thing.
Oh my God,
absolutely.
My emails this month.
Absolutely.
I feel like the email's kind of like, if you want to use the analogy of like the dog walking the emails can walk us.
Yep. I'm a big believer on emails, on time blocking in segments. Like there's very few emails that have to be responded to as fast as we think they do. And if you don't believe me, just ask yourself how long your clients wait to respond to yours. But separate conversation. Let's hit our first key takeaway. Key takeaways are going to be on page 5 if you want to write them in. We kind of have fill in the blanks. I would be willing to bet money that at least one of you can tell me what that first fill in the blank is without me showing it.
Busy is not the same as being productive.
That is right. Being busy is not the same as being productive. I think we know that. I think we intellectually understand that. I think experientially we are really bad at recognizing this. In fact, how often when somebody asks you, in fact, let's just do this real quick. Luke, do me a favor and just ask me how I'm doing.
How you doing?
Man, dude, I've been so busy. Like today I had to think over Traveler's Rest, and I had to go back and pick up the thing because I forgot about this, and I had to come all the way back and set up. And then after today my wife wants to celebrate my birthday, and and it's just, man, I'm like chicken with my head cut off. How often do we sound like that? Here's what's interesting. How often do we take like subtle pride in how busy we are? It's almost like a badge of honor to tell people how swamped we are. We almost feel bad. We take a vacation and it's like, yeah, I feel like I relaxed and now I'm ready to get back to work. And so this is not a new idea. I don't think anybody was like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. But do our lives reflect, does our mentality reflect an understanding that says being busy is not the same as being productive? John Spencer said you don't get a trophy for packing your schedule with more projects and more accomplishments and more meetings. Now, I will make a concession. For those of you that are in sales, I do recognize that sales are a numbers game. But even with sales, how often do we get to the end of the day or the end of the week and realize we met with a whole bunch of people that are not our target audience, and that we didn't move the needle, we just sat in front of people, and our best hope in that moment is maybe they know somebody else. And so looking at the idea, you're not getting a trophy for packing your schedule, you get a trophy for winning the game. But if you're doing the wrong things, you're not going to win the game. And so this is where the difference between productivity and busyness comes in, which brings us to key takeaway number 2. Key takeaway number 2 says in order to be productive, we have to be focused on our mission. In order to be productive, we have to be focused on our mission. Christina Marfice talked about goals. In just a minute, I'm going to differentiate the difference between a mission and goals. But this is the difference between true productivity, mission focused. Remember, productivity is the art of mission focused impact. And goals, which are actually at least moving the needle, because the goals should be based on the mission. So she's just taking it a level down. But in order to be productive, this is where we're at. And we have to focus on that mission, which means that we have to know what our mission is. And I would submit for your consideration that you have to know what your mission is, both personally and professionally. Now, on the professional level, which is what we'll keep this primarily oriented to today, that mission is probably defined above everybody here except Kenny. Maybe Sarah might have had some impact in the mission building. I don't know. We're going to ask what your mission statement is in a minute, so hopefully somebody here knows what the Ridge Media mission statement is.
I swear to God, I didn't cheat. We just went over this yesterday.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Truly, he and I have not talked about the content of this, so that's awesome.
Hand in the Bible, we really didn't cheat.
That's amazing. So we have to be focused there, right? We absolutely have to. First, we have to know what our mission statement is. We'll come to the company side in a second. But for the purpose of just making this personal, do you have a mission statement? You don't have to answer me, but if you don't, here's the reality. You are working 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, más o menos, for Ridge Media. The rest of your time is yours. Is it focused? Is it disciplined? Is it meaningful? When you get to the end of our time here on mortal earth, will you have accomplished the things that you wanted to? And as much as your work here is meaningful, and I know, at least my impression is that Kenny attempts to create a work environment that is meaningful and allows you to kind of have a purpose, the reality is that this is a temporary situation for everybody. This is not the end-all, be-all. No one gets to the end of their life and is like, man, I really wish I'd taken one more sales meeting. That really would have given me purpose. The sales meeting is there to provide something, and you do add value, but it's one more minute with your children or one more minute without your children. No. Sorry, that only works for the parents in the room. So considering what your personal mission is, and today we're going to go over this from a corporate perspective, but in the back of your book, there's a room for you to do this for yourself personally, so that you can take this home with you and you can be like, all right, well, maybe you want to look at your personal position within Ridge. Maybe you want to look at your personal life. Later today, I'll give you guys an email address. You can get as many of these as you want, the PDF copies, so that you can do this as many times as you want and hopefully add value to yourself. So we have to know what our mission is. And in order to do that, I want to kind of say what it's not before we say what it is. Because I think a lot of people, they really want to do the right thing. They want to have an effective mission, but they've never asked themselves what constitutes a mission. So the first thing I want to say is that a mission is not your goals. Goals are good. We should have goals. But goals are also things that you can check off. You can complete them. How many of you have goals for this week, this month, or this year? How many of you are 3/4 of the way through your yearly goals? FYI, we're 3/4 of the way through the year. In case you were wondering. What are we at? 80 days till Christmas? 75 days till Christmas? Something like that? Yeah. So it's not goals. Goals are too fast. They're also too narrow, right? There's something that, whatever the goal is, it's a very defined thing. They're also not dreams. I've heard a lot of people that have really kind of ethereal ideas that they think is their mission, and it's kind of this unicorn cotton candy. There's no real way to pin it down. It's not even really very guiding. It's more just kind of like this general, I would like to be a good person. great. I would like you to be a good person too. Me, I'm not so much, but for you, be a good person, yes. But that's more of a dream. It's also not external. And so what I mean by that is that my mission should not have anything to do with your mission. You don't define my mission. I can't come in here today and be like, Luke, your mission is. That's not my place. That is not my place. So it's none of those things. It's not goals, it's not dreams, it's not external. What is it? It's you can think of it as your life purpose. Whether you're talking about the life of Ridge Media, what is the purpose of Ridge Media, or you're thinking it for your own personal self or your own personal position, you can think of that as an entity. And the cool thing is if you know anything about business, you know that even in business, you guys are an LLC, correct? The LLC is a functioning entity. It functions as its own person for government records. So it's no different. If an LLC should have a mission statement, so should an individual. But you can even make that a little smaller and say, well, okay, whatever Ridge Media's mission is, what is the mission of my position within that? So one thing that I did years ago when I took over as an executive director is I required all of my managers that reported to me to create mission, vision, value statements for their departments. They still had to work under the umbrella of the overall company, and then I created a mission for our division, and then my managers had to create one for their departments, and then each person had to create their own mission, vision, values for their role, so that they would have guidance. So it's the life purpose. Why does that exist? It also should be timeless. And when I say timeless, I'm not saying that it never expires. What I'm saying is it's not time-based. So goals are usually time-based, right? I'm going to do X amount of exercise today, or I'm going to save X amount of money by the end of this year. A mission is not based on this is for this year. It may change. So my wife works for Zima Corp out in Spartanburg. I don't know if anybody's heard of Zima Corp, but they're a manufacturing company. They have changed their goals and they have changed what they manufacture several times in the last 60 or 80 years or whatever it's been that they've been in business. But their mission is still timeless. They're not changing why, they're changing what. So Ridge Media might decide one day, you know what? TV commercials or social media is not where it's at anymore. We now need to go get the 360-degree camera because we need to start creating virtual reality experiences because that's where advertising is going. Hint, I think that's where advertising is going. And so does that change your mission? No, the mission, whatever it is, should be higher than we produce quality TV commercials. That's not a mission. That would be a goal, that would be a vision maybe, but the mission has to be, we give companies the best way to express themselves to attract their target client or something. I don't know what your mission is, I haven't asked yet. But the mission is bigger than that. I'll give you some examples. It's also the opposite of external, it's intrinsic. It is what you are as an organization. It breathes your life into you. And if you are, there is a little bit of a difference on this intrinsic side depending on where you find yourself in the business world. So I've just given you the encouragement to say, hey, maybe you do this for your department or for your position. Well, the intrinsic nature of it needs to be intrinsic to your position, not necessarily intrinsic to you. But like, Kenny, this will, I think, resonate with you a lot. When you're an employee of a company, the purpose of your position is semi-defined by those that created the position. When you own your own company, there's no one to hold you accountable except you. And so that intrinsic value of your mission and your value prop, you have to remind yourself of that every day. And this gives you that opportunity to do that. So regardless of where it is, it needs to be intrinsic to why you, your position, your company, whatever exists, not based on what everybody else is doing. What it should not do is that my mission statement, my mission, even as a position, let's just say I'm working here. What role do you think that your person thought I was in? Person that thought that I worked in business development. Okay, so I'm a BD rep for Ridge Media. My role, my mission, not my job description, my mission should have nothing to do with Luke's mission. Luke's mission as BD, as sales, should not be like, oh, well, because Luke is doing A, B, and C, I now need to do D, E, and F. That's the way our mission might manifest, but the mission itself has to be bigger. Why? because what if Luke is no longer here? What does that do to my mission? It shrapnels it because it was based on something external to the position itself. And I see this a lot, you probably have too, to people that make their kids their mission. Being a good parent, good mission. Serving Johnny, Susie, whatever, or loving Johnny, Susie, whatever, not a great mission, because what happens when Johnny, Susie decide they don't like you and they leave the house and they're mad and they run away? What happens to your mission? Your entire purpose for living just left. And I've seen people commit suicide, go into deep depression, go into all sorts of things because their mission was based on something external. And the same thing can happen with a job. I'm sure there's been many times you've been in business, 11 years? Yeah, 11 years. If you're willing to say, you don't have to, how many times in the last 11 years have you been that close to going under?
First 5, weekly.
So if your mission in those moments was based on the business and not based on something greater, more intrinsic than what anybody else was doing, those would have been crushing. It would have been disappointing. But we've all seen someone that lost a job and decided their life was no longer worth living. They had the wrong mission. Their mission was based externally to them, and when that external thing changed, it ripped them apart. So, let's do key takeaway 3 real quick before.
Can you say that one thing again about intrinsic, the why? The piece about the why?
Yeah, so your intrinsic has to be your why, not your what.
Your why, not your what.
Yeah, so your what is going to be achieved by goals. So why am I doing what I'm doing is going to be my mission statement. What do I do is going to be my goal on how to get there. And so if, just to give you like a real tangible, I always use parenting just because even if you're not a parent, I feel like it resonates because if nothing else, you've been a kid of a parent, right? So your mission could be to be the most effective parent. And now that's not dependent on anything your kid does. Your kid can run away. You can still choose to be an effective parent even from a kid that's run away, right? So that might be your mission to be the most effective parent, or at least part of your mission. How does that manifest? The what is your goal. I'm going to enroll them in discipline teaching sports. I'm going to make sure they get a good education. I'm going to whatever. Those are going to be the goals. Those are going to be the how, but they're not the mission. The minute you say, my mission is to make sure my kids get a good education, well, what happens when they drop out of school? Do you still love them? Are they still acceptable? Can you have a conversation that's rational, or have they just destroyed your purpose for living because you've spent hours and years and dollars making sure they got that education, now all of a sudden they just threw it away? And again, we see that type of stuff all the time. I want my kid to be a judge, or I want my kid to whatever, and that becomes the mission, and that's external. That's the how. So if we stay focused on being a good parent in that scenario, then okay, they're not a judge. I can still be a good parent no matter how terrible of a kid they are because they don't want to be a judge. Slight joke there, but okay. So key takeaway 3, we're going to run through this. Scheduled tasks, therefore, have to be aligned with the mission. So busyness and productivity are not the same. In order to be productive, we've got to focus on the mission, and then our scheduled tasks have to be aligned with our mission. And this is where there's a little bit of crossover to that time blocking, and I think this will mostly resonate, but I hope it'll give us a little bit of a new idea for how we process what we do every day, because that's the goal. And if nothing else, it'll be a great refresher to get you back on track, because everything I've heard about those time blocking so far seems like it's all past tense. So it doesn't sound like it's still being done, which may mean that either this is a new resource that will help, or it'll just get you back on track with things that have worked in the past. So on page, I believe it's 6, you have some gray boxes that look kind of like this with lines above them. And before we get into our activity that we're going to do together, it's important that we define some terms. Now, what I'm not asking you right now, I'm not asking you to agree that this is the definition of these words. What I am asking is that we can agree that these definitions are what they mean today for this exercise. So this is just to get us all on board. So the first word is impactful. And if you want to write that on the page you can. And for the purpose of today's session, impactful we are going to define as contributing to the success of the defined mission. Contributing to the success of the defined mission. The second word is going to be the word compelling. Compelling. And for our purposes, we're going to define compelling as demanding an immediate response. All right, so keep your book kind of there because I want us to always remember these two things, and I'm going to switch the page, switch our slide so that we're kind of on this motion here. And what we have here, this is commonly referred to as the Kennedy Quadrant. It's been reused and used a whole bunch of times. How many of you have read the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? One of you. All right, well, now we have a reading club. We need to start. Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, uses a version of this. I think, Kenny, you were telling me about somebody else that uses a version of this too. I don't remember who it was, but...
it was like when we did the 5 dysfunctions of a team, they made it like, write down like what you could delegate versus what you could do yourself.
Yes, perfect. So in this case, for those of you that are not familiar with this quadrant, basically it's pretty self-explanatory, but as easy as it is, it's also pretty difficult. So impactful, what does impactful mean?
Contributing to the success of the defined mission.
Perfect. This row is all impactful. Anything that is here is contributing to the success of your defined mission. Obviously, this is not impactful. In fact, I hope it's self-explanatory. Compelling. What does compelling mean?
Demanding an immediate response.
Everything in this column demands an immediate response from you. This does not demand an immediate response. We'll kind of refer to this as quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. If you want some synonyms that might help understanding, you might think of compelling as an emergency or even urgent. Those are words that you might think of when you think of compelling. Impactful, you might think of moving the needle. You might think of important. You might think of probably another word that I usually use I'm not thinking of right now. And then, so we've got urgent, we've got emergency, we've got moving the needle, we've got important. You could also say mission focused here. And then for quadrant 2, this is not so much true for quadrant 4, but for quadrant 2, you might also think of this as schedulable. It's not compelling. You knew about it in advance, so this would be a great example of something that was, it's not compelling, it didn't demand your immediate response. You had opportunities to do this later, and so you can think of this, I tend to think of not compelling as schedulable. C-H-E-D-U-L-A-L-E. Although that doesn't quite count down in quadrant 4, so that's more just for 2. All right? Now, we were just talking about it yesterday. So what's impactful? What is the mission of Ridge Media?
It's wrong such answer. It's not fair if I answer because I wrote it.
There you go. Does anybody remember?
In the vision though?
It's like making our clients' lives easier through technology and ROI and making their creatives and stuff. I remember those buzzwords.
Okay. Is she close?
She's got the first out of 2 parts.
She's got the first out of 2 parts. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
We got nothing.
You got nothing? You were paying close attention?
He wasn't in the meeting.
Oh, he wasn't in the meeting. Okay.
Yesterday, sir.
All right. I was going to say, because I'm quizzing him on this now. Now that I know he doesn't pay attention. Okay. Do you remember, sir?
But is that different in the vision?
I think more or less we were using it interchangeably, like a mission and a vision. I had them written out, one in short form being the vision, and the vision was the longer paragraph. If you're really
Yeah, let's go with the shorter one, which would be the mission. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell you, while you're thinking of that, I forgot, I do have, come back to this slide real quick. Ingredients of a mission, we talked about all those there. Samples. Apple's mission is to create technology that empowers people and enriches their lives. So that doesn't matter if we're talking the iPad, the iPhone, the iPod, the whatever else they come up with next, the iBot. creating technology that enriches people's lives is going to be their overarching mission, and then what they produce, the how, is a reflection of that. Samsung is a little bit bigger. In my opinion, Samsung's is too long, but they said, we will commit our people, resources, and technology to develop quality, effective goods and services, therefore contributing to a better global community. Now, I think that one of the reasons theirs is so long is because, unlike Apple, Samsung has washing machines and refrigerators and TVs and cell phones and all sorts of stuff. And so they're saying, hey, we're going to dedicate everything we've got, our technology, our people, and our resources to develop those quality goods and purposes, therefore contributing to a better global community. Also, Samsung, which I believe is a Japanese company, is more global than Apple was, at least originally, probably when they created that statement. For those of you that don't really care about technology, I did go ahead and grab Lululemon, because you gotta grab theirs. Lululemon's, I don't even think is a good mission statement. I actually captured it because I was like, that's one everyone will know. And every time I've given this presentation, I call Lululemon's, I'm like, this is a dream. This is not a mission, because theirs is to elevate the world by realizing the full potential within every single one of us. And I get it, like it's, technically they can make clothes or they can make TVs too, I guess, because they're going to elevate the world by realizing the full potential.
But those, in short, is to make people's lives easier and provide more transparent results in marketing.
Okay.
But the idea was basically just the second piece would be the transparency of results.
Okay.
So one of the things we always pride ourselves on is, number one, making our clients' lives easier, and then being transparent in all of their marketing dollars and how they're creating an ROI. So that's really the two things we really try and make sure we do with our clients is be transparent in everything that we're doing and how it's impacting their bottom line, and then also trying to make their life easier.
All right. So make our clients' lives easier and
provide transparency in marketing results is how I wrote it in our mission statement.
in their marketing results or in your marketing results?
In their marketing results, yeah.
Now, since you actually have one, believe it or not, 80% of the companies that I go in and do this for have never actually crafted a mission statement.
We've made way too many.
Okay, that's better than not having one.
I would say Aaron and Sarah, this is probably their 7th mission statement or mission statement.
Why does it keep changing?
I think
we're essentially saying the same thing every time. We're just
rewriting it every way, yeah.
Okay, so just trying to meet your client where they are a little bit better by rephrasing things, or trying to meet your internal client?
Depends on just how often we rewrite the website.
Yeah, I think it would be more from just like trying to make sure, like the way that we just went on Monday was I was talking about, like I saw a list of podcasts, true KPI from a CEO is not like P&L, any of these other measurables. It was how many times did you repeat your mission statement that week, and can your team repeat your mission statement? And so the idea was like, I feel like I don't do a great job at repeating ours a lot. I think that's why we change it a lot, because a lot of times we do this meeting and everyone's like, I don't remember it. And then I'm like, maybe it's too complicated, so I try and rewrite it. And it's more like, okay, I do it again like a year later, someone else comes in, they're like, what's your mission statement? We do this exact situation, and everyone's like, and I'm like, okay, well, this isn't simple enough. So I keep just trying to distill.
That's a great reason to keep writing it. Most people rewrite it because they keep changing direction. They hear something like, oh, I want to go that direction now. Oh, I want to go that.
I'm just trying to make it easier so that whenever you ask them, like everyone can just trigger it. Because like at the end of the day, I would say this one is closer to what we talk about in like simple layman's terms internally a lot. Particularly the number one part being making our clients' lives easier. That's like, and in all of our sales meetings, that's one of the things we talk about a lot. And then we always talk about providing transparency, because that's a big competitive advantage that a lot of people are not transparent in their marketing dealings. They don't provide like clear anything.
Yes.
It's just smoke and mirrors. So like that is basically like one's a competitive advantage and one's like really like our kind of our goal.
And I'll say that what you didn't say, which is good, you didn't say and to be more transparent than our competitors.
Correct.
Because that makes it external. You're just going to be transparent. Doesn't matter what anybody else in the market is doing, you're going to be transparent. You're making your clients' lives easier. I would say that as you're looking, and maybe you want to hone this further, right? Maybe that's happening. If this line, almost verbatim, is not part of your actual marketing, then it's not your mission. Or you don't know what your mission is when you're going and marketing your stuff. So I think this is really good, because this is very reasonable for you to be trying to sell me, and you're like, yeah, well, we're all about making our clients' lives easier and making sure that we're transparent about their marketing efforts or their marketing results. Boom. That's why I'm here. For SML, our mission statement is very, very simple, and that is equipping tomorrow's leaders, elevating today's results. Or today's, we actually use results in some cases, and we use a P word that means the same thing sometimes. Now I'm forgetting. Do we not have it in here? Of course we don't. P word. I'm so embarrassed right now. What's the P word that would mean results? Productivity. Oh my goodness.
The thing we're trying to say.
Yeah, productivity.
I was going to say that earlier.
You looked at it too many
I
times.
looked at it 3 times. Yeah, right. So it should come out, right? That should just roll off. And results, productivity, it's not about having the exact word memorized as much as it's knowing this is what drives us. This is what's moving us forward. As long as we're still aiming at that, we're great. The minute we start having to say, ooh, yeah, we don't want to tell the client about how we did that because violation of transparency. You know your mission guides.
I think we do a good job of that part. Like, I'll just give you an example of, like, when we hired a consultant recently, like, one of the things she wanted to do was change the way we delivered our, like, reports by, like, not having an active live link to the dashboard so that you can, like, basically refrain from having the clients question why there's, like, potentially red or negatives on the screen. And I feel like Erin, like, really fought that because Erin understands our mission is, like, just trying to be transparent.
Yeah.
Like, she was very, like, she did not like that. She was like, I feel like we need to send this freaking dashboard. We've always sent it to them before. I don't want to send it to them. Why would we not send it to them? And I feel like in a good way, you're just trying to stick to the mission of, like, we're just trying to be transparent.
Yep.
I feel like honesty is, like, something we always really, really pride ourselves on. I tried to work it in there. I could not figure out how to put the word honesty in that.
I think the transparency is the honesty.
And I think that communicates that as well for whatever my opinion is worth. I like that. Okay, so this is what's impactful. We know that the difference between productivity and busyness is that productivity is mission focused. This is our mission. So now we get to ask ourselves how that manifests in our day-to-day lives. Now, most people would think we're going to start with quadrant 1, but we're actually going to start with quadrant 2. Would anybody like to guess why we're going to start with quadrant 2?
They're the most misleading.
Say that again.
They're the most misleading.
What do you mean?
You think that they're more compelling than they are.
Well, in this case, it's, I see what you're saying. I hear where you're coming from. I actually like the idea, but in this case, no, it's almost the opposite, and that is that we're going to start with the things we can schedule.
Oh, like that.
We're going to start with the big rocks for those of you that have read the 7 Habits. These are the things that should take up the bulk of your time. So my question for you...
We should take up the bulk?
Should take up the bulk of your time, yes. So my question for each of you here today is based on your roles, and you can just kind of think of the big picture of Ridge Media right now. What are things that are schedulable? So they're not compelling, they're not fires, they're not emergencies, they're schedulable, and they are impactful. So they are helping you move the needle, and you know about them in advance. What are some things that are helping you do this, and you can schedule them?
I don't know. I mean, the first thing that came to mind is like a report meeting. Like it's very impactful, but it's scheduled.
I just went more broad and said meetings.
Yeah.
Because I feel like internal, external, the meetings, they're impactful.
Some of them are not
Schedule.
impactful.
Meetings, yeah, you have to collaborate.
Some of them are impactful, yeah.
and we can put meetings in another category later if we want to as well. But hopefully, at least some of your meetings are helping you drive the mission forward, and hopefully you're scheduling more of them than you're having to do, oh my goodness, we have to do an emergency meeting right now. All right, what else is something that you are doing that you can schedule that is helping you drive the needle forward? It's impactful.
I was thinking about what I do for like kind of both sales and marketing for Ridge, but like marketing myself, like whether that's just like posting, like getting content for Ridge or getting content for myself.
I was going to say outreach.
Outreach, yeah, in general.
Because that's something you can schedule, but if you don't do it, then you're screwed.
We do design time.
I mean, for me, finances would be part of that.
Okay.
And I guess everyone has some level of role in finances because everyone's looking at like, you have to have a scheduled time to look and see if everybody paid us for this month before you keep doing their marketing, for example.
Yeah.
You have to look and make sure people pay before you start projects. So I feel like everybody would kind of like some level.
Finance review / billing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. There's probably other things. If you think of another thing that would go in this schedulable category, that's impactful, just say, hey, this will probably go in quadrant 2 and we'll write it over here. Now we're gonna ask this question. What are things that still drive the mission forward? They are still impactful, but they are of an emergency nature that might push some of these things down in priority. So these are, we'll call them fires that are important. And if I can go back to our example of raising a child, if you have a child, you might have in this category, take them to school, right? But an emergency, something that would be impactful but also compelling, is the kid broke their arm. You're no longer taking them to school, you are taking them to the emergency room. It's still impactful, it's still part of being a good parent, but it is not the stuff you scheduled. It's something that became instantly, it demanded your immediate response, and it has to be prioritized highly. So what are some things that have to be prioritized immediately and might end up pushing some of these things down the priority list?
Website going down.
Website going down. So we're going to call that tech issues.
And for 2, you could do website launches.
Yeah. Excellent. All right.
You can put onboarding on number 2 too.
Yeah, I
Onboarding,
was
yeah.
gonna say onboarding.
Or say training. Is that okay?
Well,
What's
onboarding
client
for clients.
Oh, client onboarding. My bad. Okay.
You can do both though. You can put training on there too because it's also both.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Say, like for one, you could say like a campaign not performing or like
Okay.
campaign having issues.
And result issues because I think it
Result
ties it back to the mission.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like emails can go in there, but also could go in the non-impactful. And I feel like that is like, I've been afraid to say emails because
Yeah.
I would think it would be in one because
Yeah,
sometimes,
well, I was
like,
even thinking
It
emails
could
could be
just go in the
too.
middle because
Emails can be in at least 3 of these boxes, and we'll talk about why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll put email here. And then we're going to put over here urgent emails.
I like that.
And ultimately, this is where your mission comes into play and why there's some value in knowing what your individual mission is. Because just because it's an email that says, I need your immediate response, does it actually always need your immediate response?
No.
There's a lot of data that suggests that when we get pulled off of our task, whatever that task is, it takes us almost 15 minutes to get back mentally on track with what we were doing. So maybe a question that we can ask ourselves when we're looking at these urgent emails is not, because what do we think? We think, oh, I'll just quickly fire off a response, now it's off my plate. Stop asking yourself, can I do this really quick, and ask, is this worth 20 minutes of my time? Because that's what it's going to take potentially to get back on track with what you were doing. And if it can wait till your next block, I always recommend a block early in the day and a block later in the day for emails specifically. If it can wait till that next block and you're not likely to lose business, it's not an actual fire, then it goes back over here and it needs to not disrupt your day. But if you have maybe a client site that just went down, right? You got to take care of that. You need to respond immediately. That's probably an all hands on deck situation to a certain extent, because ultimately every dollar it costs them looks bad for you, and it is not making your clients' lives easier, and the transparency on that becomes they already know what's going on and you need to fix it quickly. So there are urgent emails, but most of them are not nearly as urgent as we think they are. And I'll just be very transparent. This is where I get stuck too. I have to close down that tab. Otherwise, I stopped letting personal emails even come to my phone, because I would get so off. Oh shoot, it's an email. I need to do something with it, even if it's just delete it. No, I don't. It'll still be there tomorrow morning. I promise. So that's just a personal measure. What's something else that can be compelling, have to be dealt with immediately, but still is moving the needle?
I think, I don't want to use the word because we already have it on number 2. I'm looking for the other word, but I would almost say training or staff assistance. Maybe I think of that incorrectly, and that is somewhere that I think Erin's falling more into this category now that Sarah's been out. She's probably already been there too. I hate to say it that way, but in terms of people asking for you to help them do something in the office, and I thought there's a fine line between should we stop what I'm doing and help you figure out whatever your question is? You know how it is.
Yep.
Sometimes you're like, like, Luke, I don't need to help you do that, dude. Right now, it's not an urgency. But then sometimes I'm like, I really need to help Luke do that right now. But trying to decide when I need to help Luke or not is like it's difficult.
Sure. So I put equipping ad hoc because obviously that's training can also go over here. There is an entire segment that we can do on delegation, on how, where you define those boundaries on when it reaches X level, this is when you bring it to me. Otherwise, I'm available at this time of day for any and all questions.
Sarah had alpha hours at one point. I think we've gotten better about it now. Main thing, having better people and better training definitely helps all the above. But
absolutely.
Well, and just like communication, like Slack it.
I know what I'm guided by.
Unless it's urgent, don't like walk over.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, we'll talk about this.
Boundaries. We talked about boundaries earlier. Boundaries.
Well, I was gonna say like the team's attitude in this too. Like
Can you unpack that?
Like a team member that's not on board, or what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Remediation.
I'm blanking on the word.
Remediation is where you have to address unmet expectations, and sometimes that has to be done now. You can't wait. I hate it when companies will let you go and be stupid for 3 days, and they're like, oh, on Friday now we're going to tell you that you haven't been meeting expectations. No, like address that, because otherwise they're getting further and further away from the goal.
You were almost talking about it in a different way, weren't you?
What do you mean?
Like he's saying remediation isn't like trying to help make sure people get back on the path, but you were talking about it more from like a perspective of
just in office. Why am I blanking
Pregnancy
on
brain.
every word?
It's pregnancy brain.
it's just like basically the culture. You can tell when an employee's upset or having a bad day, and then it kind of
we're a small company. Like if I come in here in a bad mood, everybody feels it, kind of thing.
Yeah, and sometimes I try to I think it's almost like a personal.
Or Aaron on Mondays.
Yeah, Aaron on Mondays.
You have a bad reputation on Mondays?
Don't come here on Mondays.
Note to self. Sessions on Mondays are no go.
You gotta wait till about noon.
Noon after she's had her coffee?
Yeah. I would say, but the main thing is like, how do you call it? Would it be like, it's almost like personal issues. Like, cause sometimes you don't want to, like, if Aaron's like something going on personally with somebody, you don't want to just be like, dang, Aaron's having a rough day. I've got shit to do. I can't deal with Aaron. Like, you kind of want to stop and be like, hey, Aaron, what's going on? Can I help you?
Yeah.
And I feel like that is impactful and
There you
compelling.
go.
I think.
Thank you.
Because I would say, like, when you were getting sick and we didn't know what the heck was going on, like we were all like, I would say, there's times where we probably ignored you when we shouldn't have. And there's times where I feel like we were trying to help and we didn't know when to help and not. Like,
So team cohesion?
Yeah. Because sometimes you're like, damn, Sarah's having she doesn't feel well, she's sick. I want to help her, but I'm like, crap, I need to do. And then sometimes you're like, I'll sit right next to Sarah and be like, all right, let's spend the next 3 hours together. Let me help you get out of your hole.
Yeah.
Like, what can I help you with?
And knowing the difference, a lot of these are nuanced, but it's thinking through what quadrant does this belong in right now. Because what we're getting ready to get into, and I think this is where we really get stuck. Quadrant 3 is why most of us are busy, but not productive. So quadrant 3 is one thing and is not another. What is it not?
It's not impactful.
Which means it is not what?
Moving the needle.
It's not moving the needle, it's not mission focused, it's not contributing to the success of the defined mission. But it is compelling. Now, when we chose this word, we did this very, very intentionally because compelling has a very positive connotation. Compelling is the thing I've got to help. How many of you have said, I have to go help so-and-so? All right? Now, sometimes that is true, and it belongs up here. How often, in reality, do you not have to go help someone with something, and what is the reality is that their lack of planning is now feeling like it constitutes your emergency? Often when I talk about quadrant 3, it's the friend who calls you on a Saturday morning who says, I really, really need your help moving. And if your mission is to be the best parent you can be, and you've got plans with your children, but you have a compelling thing, it's your friend trying to help do the right thing, you're trying to be a good bro, a good whatever, and you're like, oh, man, how am I going to turn my friend down? Everybody else bailed on him. I got to be the one person. Is it moving the needle? Is it what you're committed to doing, or is it compelling you, but not actually doing what you need to do? Now, for those of you that are leaders, This usually means, if you're spending a lot of time here, it usually means that you have not done a great job of effectively delegating. Because people don't think they have the authority to make the decisions that they need to make, and they're constantly running to you saying, what about, what about, what about? And so it feels like it's up here because it needs to be decided, but it shouldn't have to always be decided by you. They should have the authority to do what they need to do within boundaries and reasons and support and all that. But here's the question. What are things that seem like they're important? They seem like they're impactful. They're not, though. They're compelling. They're demanding your attention right now, but they honestly have very little to do with this.
Emails.
What's that?
Emails.
Emails is definitely going to go in this category. What else?
This is like just blatantly rude, and I don't know. I just don't know how else to say it. Just like dumb questions, and I'm sure there's a
There's
better
no
way.
dumb question.
Sure there is.
There are such dumb questions.
Yeah, there are, Aaron.
You've had employees ask you dumb questions in here before, and we can literally all know the name I'm thinking right now without saying it out loud.
So what constitutes a dumb question?
The question they know the answer to, but they just don't want to
They
creatively or
don't want
independently
to,
think.
yeah, they don't want to think.
Questions that reveal a lack of engagement. You should always feel free to bring a question that's a genuine question. But one of the rules I implemented to avoid dumb questions is if you're going to come to me with a question, you need to be coming with at least 2 proposed solutions.
We had to implement that.
Right?
I did the same thing.
If
This is
you-
Lauren. You guys are so mean. I'm literally her maid of honor.
If you don't, and here's the thing, most of the time if you require
It's like the
people,
solutions meeting. That ding, ding, ding. I heard that.
if you do this, if you make them come up with solutions, it will give, and then they're only going to come to you when they have a legit question. Because they've actually thought through, they have a solution, and if they already know what your answer is going to be because you've already given them the solution, they're never coming to you with that. Do you want me to use your solution or a different solution? Really? Right? So dumb questions. What else?
I mean, I think you can put meetings in that same category.
You absolutely can. There's a ton of meetings that seem compelling, and there's a few different ways that can manifest, right? That can manifest in a impromptu meeting that quite frankly could have been an email. This can manifest as a person that we think, we really hope is going to be a client, but they've been stringing us along forever and we're jumping every time they say jump, but they're never actually going to turn into a client.
That hurts.
Yep.
Yeah, it stings a little.
and this can also...
Sarah's looking down at her book. She like put it this close to her face.
Right? It happens. Where we drop, and what happens? When we take that meeting for that client we know they're never going to be a client. We know it's never going to happen. When we take that meeting, we drop all of this and we're dropping this. Because we're prioritizing something that is not moving the needle. We know it's not moving the needle. If we were the consultant, we would say you need to fire that client. But we're not. And so we end up taking this meeting. So it can be a number of things. What else?
Yes.
What do we got?
Go to prospective client and wasting my freaking time with next round. It's pretty easy.
And there's from depending on how you want to work on that, like that is an area where you can be delegating. Anybody that's like that right now, where I've called up multiple times, they're telling me what they think I want to hear, but I'm not seeing any results. They're now, like right now, because I just recently trained my assistant on how to deal with some of those. Everyone that's in that category is getting taken off of my board and getting put on Brianna's board. And they're going to hear from her. And if they want, you very well may.
One of the next hires.
And
We've been saying that for years.
And that doesn't mean that the assistant just gets all the stuff you don't want. It does mean that she or he is able to filter through things so that you don't end up down here. And you can hopefully stay focused here and if necessary here. What else goes to quadrant 3? Things that seem compelling but are not impactful.
I don't know how to say this into 2 words, so I'll digress in a moment to explain the whole position, but it kind of goes back to the impact was what I think it's worth bringing up.
Okay.
It goes back to the whole question of like whether we put the dashboard into the reports. Because a lot of times then the client has, like, well, it could fall under no questions, but it's not necessarily dumb, they're particularly naive. But like in the day, like you made the example of like, well, if we keep sending the dashboard to everybody, then at some point these clients are going to start asking questions that don't actually really matter, but it takes a ton of time. I think that's the exact word you used. Because a lot of times we like
They
basically
get bogged down in like the weeds when they don't need to be.
exactly like they look at this dashboard and there's like decrease in one category that is
And then it
completely
creates
irrelevant.
so many meetings because the client's like stuck on that one thing, like 20-something battery does all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that as misaligned engagement. In order to be transparent in your marketing results, someone should probably be responsible for that. Here's the beauty. That someone, this stuff that you mentioned, belongs up there for that one person. But if you are putting aside your responsibilities to handle stuff that doesn't actually help you, do you have a customer success person that's kind of assigned to make sure customers stay happy?
The AE would be that person, but the idea would be like, say you do a monthly meeting, we're running your account, and we send you a dashboard, it'd be like, say we're doing your social media, we might have changed our audience because we're trying to like reach a smaller niche target market because we weren't getting a lot of results. So your impressions go down. Your website clicks might have gone up, you might have gotten like actually more engagement, more better leads, like quality over quantity would be the response we would say. But then they're overly concerned about like, well, why did I post and not reach as many people? We didn't get as many likes. Why did I not get as many likes? Our wasn't goal wasn't likes and impressions. Our goal was website clicks and leads. And then at that point they're like, well, what kind of content are we putting out? Why are we putting out that video? I don't think the video is working well. The graphics aren't good. I don't think, they start digressing into this like social media like web. When really it's like, don't think about any of that. Like we got more clicks, we did the goal we set out to do. Like the result was to get people to call you, your phone rang, okay, cool, then don't worry about the other numbers.
So your EA might be able to be equipped with the opportunity to answer as many questions as possible, and if they're still dissatisfied, there may be a way to move a meeting that's scheduled up. Okay, if you have additional questions, here's what I can do. If you have additional questions, here is a special link to Kenny, to Lou, to whoever. They can answer more of the nuanced questions. Feel free to book an available time, and you have allocated time in your week to deal with those types of questions. It's its own unique calendar. Because it is part of the transparency, it is part of making your clients' lives easier, but it can't consume all of your time and push everything else down because one client has questions that frankly are not part of your immediate need. So finding a way to move that from here up to here is the only way to make that productive. Otherwise you end up getting derailed every 5 seconds by somebody that doesn't understand your industry.
Yeah, I would say that you like trying to explain to them it's not impactful and you can help. You're trying to use this in terms of like pitching it.
Or just like with the presentation, the benefit of the presentation is you're controlling what they see. It's not like a consistent, like with the presentation, if something's down, we just don't put it on there and they don't want to ask about it.
Yeah.
Because we can say like, we'll mention maybe like impressions dropped, but look, let's,
We went away from that for a reason.
engagements of what?
Because we used to do that, not in
Screenshots.
the presentation, but then they were like, we know that you're just pulling the good stuff.
Yeah, clients didn't like just all agree.
Oh, they said that?
Oh yeah, and definitely we got blasted on that. That's why we went away from doing the freaking screenshots on the report and we went to the dashboard because everybody's like, it's been a year. I haven't seen a single red thing that I just
So
no
if
freaking way.
when we do our session on communication, that might help because we'll talk about framing.
We did
And-
such a
Framing is probably good. Okay, if you think of anything else, let me know. Quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 are just the plain time wasters. These are not urgent. These are not important. These are the distractions. What are the things that, just being real, Forbes says that the average U.S. employee is wasting 2.09 hours every day of their workday. What are things that might waste your time while you're here at work? Want to put emails again?
I was going to say dumb
Yeah,
questions.
honestly, emails and dumb questions.
Because then, like, whenever you get, I really don't like saying dumb questions, so I understand what you guys are saying, so I'm going to say it. But, like, you can really get into, like, a spiraling conversation with the questions. And it just takes up a lot of time.
No point. Dialogue, gossip, complaining.
I guess, like, ranting about clients, because there's no action there.
Yep. Complaining. Anybody willing to be vulnerable and say that they get stuck on their own social media? They go on their phone to check a client's social media, see how it looks, and accidentally end up scrolling through YouTube videos for 20 minutes?
Yeah. I don't take
Social
questions,
media?
those are my breaks.
I have Opal, so it blocks it from 9 to 5.
Oh, we know you hit that pause.
No, I don't. I have a record. I have a record of 180 days.
Under glasses?
No, I've never watched
Now,
it.
my question is, so my wife was like really trying to get rid of all social media. So she like took all of her phone and then just started using them all in the browser instead.
Yeah.
do you find loopholes for yourself?
I have gone on my computer before, but it's just not. I don't know. I
Okay.
really know.
It kind
Once
of
it's
works
a
for me.
habit.
Yeah, it kind of works for me. The Opal thing works for me. Thanks, Sarah.
Good. Awesome.
Sarah fixed
I have
all
not
this.
tried it.
So there's a lot of things. Now, this category is a little bit tricky because anything in this category can go up to this category. What would be required for it to go up to from quadrant 4 to quadrant 2?
You get scheduled.
Scheduled for a purpose, right? So if, probably not gossip probably not a good one, but dialogue, right? Especially if you're a leader, this is probably mostly for Kenny. Kenny, there's times when you have to just say, yes, I'm going to dedicate a half hour to listen to you rant. Because that's what a good leader does, and you need to get it out. I would much rather you get it out to me than spread hate to all of your colleagues and bring down the entire tenor of the office. Or the clients, right? So it becomes, when it's good, emails the same way, questions of any nature the same way. Social media. If we're talking about our personal lives, one of the things that I will often put in here for personal lives is TVs, games, social media. But there's a difference between I am going to take 30 minutes in between work and making dinner to kind of reset my mind and decompress, and then I'm going to engage with the rest of my night. That can be good. I can go into quadrant 2 as opposed to quadrant 4, which is where you realize 3 hours later you're still binge watching and the kids haven't eaten yet. And so that's where we end up in trouble, is when it's not controlled. It's not urgent, it's not scheduled, it's not controlled. It can be if we move it up that way by making it intentional. I don't watch a lot of TV. Someone asked me the other day, like, do you watch this and that? And I was like, dude, no joke, my TV is on maybe 2 hours a month. Never on. I don't have time. I just genuinely don't have time. But does that mean TV is always a waste of time? No. If my wife and I would like to spend time together watching a movie, well, all of a sudden that became a quadrant 2 activity, not a waste of time activity. I literally do not remember. I have a pretty stinking good memory. I don't remember the time I just sat down and was like, I'm going to watch TV. It's just not, that's not part of my DNA. Do I get stuck on social media and emails? Absolutely. Do I have to take, like, I've taken all notifications off of social media for me so that I don't have the compelling part of it. I just have the straight time waste. I can take full ownership because it's not even compelling anymore. So this right here gives you an opportunity to kind of ask yourself these questions. When something comes at you, you can ask, is it moving the needle? Is it even in one of these two things? If the answer is honestly no, you have to drop it down and it can't take place. If the answer is yes, but really right now in this moment it's here, if we schedule it for tomorrow, next week, whatever, it moves up to here, then we can make that work. But we have to be willing to be very honest and vulnerable with ourselves. And part of this means, especially because you're such a small organization, part of this is going to require that you drop whatever level, and you may or may not have this individually, but whatever level of messiah complex you might have, where it's like, I have to fix it because I'm the only one that can, you'll have to let that go just a little bit in order to make this work. Because ultimately, everyone is replaceable. So having the knowledge of, hey, is this actually going to move the needle right now? Or am I going to lose something up here because I've decided to spend time down here? And even for your clients, like, you have that client that's calling, they're ranting and they're upset and, I can't believe that. If their website is down, obviously that's a Q1, right? I have questions about my dashboard and I need to talk to someone immediately. We might need to train our executive assistant to say, or our virtual assistant, whatever, to say, we understand that. As you know, we pride ourselves on getting our work done in a timely manner, and that requires questions like this have to be scheduled so that work like this work we're doing for you stays on target. If we, they have to understand. And I've told people about when they're working with their regular boss, I say, like, sometimes you ask the question, what would you like me to take off of my plate to put this on my plate? I only have so much room on my plate. Like, there's a finite amount of time and hours in the day. What would you like me to do? So, as we're kind of, wrapping up, we want to stay focused on the mission. You have to know where you're going. Eleanor Roosevelt said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up somewhere else. You have to know what your mission is, and then you have to stay focused on it. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to task and make sure that your mission is defining how you plan out your days. Now again, we have a whole other session on time management, which really complements this session well, where it says, okay, you know what your mission is, now you can divide that up into goals and tasks. But at least this way, you have a metric by which to know, am I being productive? Because the answer is, did I move the mission? Your 8 to 10 hours or whatever it is that you are working here should be developed this direction. At the end of your shift, is it doing this? If it's not, you are not productive today. If it is, and it might have been fires. You might have found that there were several urgent emails and you had several tech issues. We didn't even get into, what happens if the electricity goes off in the building? What happens if the Wi-Fi is out, right? Those are things that require immediate decisive action. That could take an hour or 2 hours out of your day, but addressing that is still necessary to drive the mission forward. But being honest with ourselves about whether or not we are in this row or this row is the definition of whether we're being productive or being busy. And if we can say, yep, that was necessary, I wanted to do this stuff, I couldn't do this stuff because this stuff is necessary to move the needle. If I don't handle this, then we can't do this stuff. But the problem is that often we get stuck here. We get stuck with the stuff that's not moving the needle, and that's why at the end of the day we feel discouraged, we feel beat down, we feel all that stuff. So every session that I do, we have something called Make It Happen. This is designed specifically so that you can take what we talked about today and not just make it a theoretical concept that we talk about around the table, but that you can actually do for yourself. So create a mission statement for your division, your department, your position, even your own life. Create that mission statement. Then list the primary tasks that's going to help you achieve that mission, and then use those resources to plan out the rest of your day. You do have several resources there in your book that we wanted to give you right away. You can see those there. We have an impactful productivity worksheet there that's a part of your book that will help you define your mission, that will help you go through the steps that we have talked about here today. If you want more of themes, more of the impactful productivity, more of, there's a scheduler page in there. Shoot not exactly what I mean, but shoot an email to resources@servantmindedleadership.com. We will send you PDFs of all this, no charge. It's all part of just what we want to offer as making sure you have what you need. You also have this QR code, which will give you all the other resources that are just part of SML or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, that will, all of our posts and things that are designed to help just stimulate these conversations and help us be the versions that we have. And that is like a link tree. It's not we use BioLink, but it's a tree basically. We also did give you this on page 11, and you'll notice I changed it from what's impactful to your mission. So the idea when we gave you this one, so you can do it for yourself. What does your personal life look like? How can you define what is mission impactful versus not there for your own personal life? And you've already all connected with me. If you like today's session, you want to leave a Google review, that is the Google review for that. I don't know why I came up with two separate ones, but that's a Google review thing. If you liked it, if you hated it, I actually really want to know why this is one of our most popular sessions. So if you think we can do something differently, I would actually really like to know, so that the next company that we do this for gets an even better session than you guys did. If you liked it, tell Kenny, because Kenny's the one that's